Tonight, I was set to receive the Architectural Visionary Award, celebrating my life's masterpiece. But a chilling note and a forgotten diary unearthed a 15-year-old secret, threatening to reveal my greatest triumph as my darkest crime. The dress was a masterpiece. Midnight silk, cascading to the floor in a way that made it look like liquid night, with a constellation of tiny, glittering diamonds scattered across the bodice. It was the kind of dress you wear once in a lifetime to the kind of event that defines a career. And tonight was that event. The Architectural Visionary Award Gala. My award, my night. For the past decade, I'd poured my blood, sweat, and a frankly unhealthy amount of caffeine into my work, culminating in the Lumina Tower, a skyscraper that didn't just scrape the sky, it danced with it. It was my legacy, and tonight, the world was going to celebrate it. I was just admiring the way the fabric shimmered under the warm lights of my bedroom when my fiancé, Liam, walked in, holding a single plain white envelope. He had a puzzled look on his face. "This was just slipped under the door," he said, handing it to me. "No stamp, no return address. Weird." I took it from him, my brow furrowed. We lived in a secure building with a doorman. Random mail didn't just get slipped under the door. I turned the cheap paper over in my hands. My name, Clara, was written on the front in a spidery, slightly slanted script that felt familiar. A cold tingle, like a single drop of icy water, traced its way down my spine. I dismissed it as pre-gala jitters. "Probably just a fan letter that got past security," Liam suggested, smiling as he straightened his bow tie in the mirror. "You're a big deal now, you know. Get used to it." I chuckled, the sound a little tight, and slid my thumb under the flap. Inside was a single piece of folded notepaper, the kind you'd find in a cheap legal pad. I unfolded it. The message was short, written in the same unsettlingly familiar handwriting. 4 simple words, followed by a command. "Don't attend the gala." I stared at it. A joke? It had to be. Maybe one of my colleagues from the firm, a poor attempt at a prank to rattle my nerves. "What is it?" Liam asked, his reflection meeting my eyes in the mirror. "Nothing," I said, trying to sound casual as I started to fold it back up. "Just a silly prank." But as I folded it, my eyes caught the second line, written in smaller, more urgent letters at the bottom. "Check your old diary." My blood ran cold. My old diary? I hadn't thought about that thing in 15 years. It was a relic from a different life, a different me, a high school girl full of angst and ridiculous dreams, scribbling away in a cheap, lockable notebook with a unicorn on the cover. How could anyone possibly know about that? Only a handful of people ever knew I even kept one, and I hadn't spoken to most of them in years. Liam saw the change in my expression. He turned around, his playful demeanor gone, replaced by concern. "Clara? What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I held out the note. He read it, his eyebrows knitting together. "Okay, this is creepy. What diary are they talking about?" "My old one." "From high school," I whispered, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. "It's got to be in a box in the attic somewhere." "Honey, it's a prank," he insisted, wrapping his arms around me. His embrace was warm and solid, a stark contrast to the icy fear coiling in my stomach. "Someone's just trying to mess with you before your big night. A jealous rival, maybe that guy from the Henderson project you beat out. Don't let them get to you. In 2 hours, you'll be on that stage, holding that award, and this will be a funny story we tell our friends." He was right. Of course, he was right. It was absurd. I was letting a stupid, anonymous note ruin the most important night of my life. I forced a smile, tucked the note into my purse, and tried to focus on the evening ahead. But the words echoed in my head, a persistent, nagging whisper. "Check your old diary. Check your old diary." The handwriting. I knew it. I was sure I knew it, but my mind refused to place it, like a name on the tip of your tongue that you can't quite grasp. We were about to leave, my hand on the doorknob, when I stopped. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go without knowing. The feeling was too strong, a primal sense of warning that made the hairs on my arms stand up. "I'm sorry, Liam," I said, turning to him, my heart pounding. "I can't. I have to look. It'll take me 5 minutes. Please?" He sighed, but saw the desperate plea in my eyes. "Okay, 5 minutes. But then we go, no matter what. Deal? I'm not letting some weirdo ruin your night." I nodded gratefully and dashed towards the rickety pull-down ladder to the attic. The air up there was thick with the scent of dust and aging paper. Cardboard boxes stacked high and labeled in my mother's neat script held the ghosts of my past. I scanned the labels. College textbooks, childhood trophies, holiday decorations. And then I saw it. A smaller box tucked away behind a stack of photo albums with my own teenage scrawl on the side. "Memories do not throw away." My hands trembled as I sliced through the old packing tape. Inside, nestled amongst concert ticket stubs, dried-up corsages, and friendship bracelets, was the diary. It was even more pathetic than I remembered. A faded lilac cover, a silly unicorn sticker peeling at the corner, and a tiny, flimsy brass lock that a bobby pin could have opened. The key was long gone. With a surge of adrenaline, I pried the lock open with my fingernail. It popped with a pathetic little click. I sat on the dusty floorboards, the single bare bulb overhead casting long shadows, and opened the book. The pages were filled with my loopy, dramatic handwriting, detailing crushes, fights with my parents, and dreams of becoming a world-famous architect. I flipped through, a faint smile on my lips, feeling foolish. Liam was right. This was a ridiculous waste of time. I was about to close it when a page near the back caught my eye. The handwriting was different. It was still mine, but it wasn't the dreamy, loopy script of the other pages. It was tight, jagged, and frantic. The ink bled into the paper as if I'd pressed the pen down with all my might. The date was from my senior year, a few months before graduation. A week I had almost no memory of, a hazy, stressful blur of final exams and college applications. My eyes scanned the frantic entry, my breath catching in my throat. It wasn't about boys or grades. It was a detailed technical description of a building, a tower of glass and light that seemed to defy gravity. My tower, the Lumina Tower. Every core concept, every innovative detail I had built my career on was right there, sketched and described in terrifying detail on the cheap, lined paper of my teenage diary. And then I read the final chilling sentence at the bottom of the page, a sentence that made the entire world drop out from under me. The Lumina Tower wasn't my idea, it was Eliza's, and I know what happened to her. Eliza. The name hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. For a split second, my mind was a complete blank, a white wall of static. Who was Eliza? And then, like a photograph developing in a dark room, a face bloomed in the fog of my memory. Big, curious brown eyes behind thick-rimmed glasses, a cascade of unruly dark curls, and a smile that was always a little shy, a little crooked. Eliza, my best friend, my shadow. The other half of my soul for 4 years of high school. How could I have forgotten her? It felt impossible, like forgetting how to breathe. "Clara, it's been 10 minutes. We're going to be late." Liam's voice floated up from downstairs, muffled and impatient. Late, the gala, my award. It all seemed utterly insignificant, a scene from someone else's life. My world had just tilted on its axis, and the only thing that mattered was the faded lilac book in my hands and the ghost it had resurrected. My fingers, smudged with dust, trembled as I turned the page, and the next. Suddenly, she was everywhere. E and I stayed up all night drawing blueprints for a city on Mars. Mr. Henderson gave us a C for lack of realism. He has no vision. Another entry. Eliza thinks we can use kinetic energy from foot traffic to power the lobby lights. She spent 3 hours explaining the math. I think she's an actual genius. It all came rushing back in a painful, overwhelming torrent. our shared lunches in the art room, the endless nights spent dreaming up impossible buildings, filling sketchbooks with our designs. We weren't just friends, we were a creative partnership. But I had been the face, the charismatic one who could sell our ideas, while Eliza was the quiet, brilliant engine, the one who understood the physics, the engineering, the soul of the structures we imagined, the Lumina Tower. It wasn't just inspired by our old dreams. It was our old dream, her dream. I had stolen it. I had built my entire life on a foundation of her forgotten genius. And then I found the final entry about her, a few pages after the one describing the tower. The date was April 17th. My handwriting was barely legible, a chaotic scrawl of smeared ink and tear stains. She's gone. They're saying it was an accident, that she slipped. We were on the old cliff path watching the meteor shower. She loved the stars. 1 minute she was there talking about tensile strength and the way the moonlight hit the water, and the next, she was just gone. Everyone is crying. Her parents look like statues. I can't feel anything. I just keep seeing her hands slip. I should have held on tighter. I should have... The entry cut off there. The rest of the page was blank. The rest of the entire diary was blank. I never wrote in it again. The memory was a black hole in my past. The police had questioned me, of course. I was the only witness, a traumatized teenager who'd watched her best friend fall to her death. They were kind, gentle. They told me it wasn't my fault that these things happen, and eventually, I believed them. I packed away the grief, packed away the diary, packed away Eliza, and moved on. I'd buried it so deep I had convinced myself it never even happened. A cold dread, heavier and more real than anything I'd felt before, settled in my gut. The note. Don't attend the gala. This wasn't a prank from a rival. This was about Eliza. Someone else knew. Someone knew I was being celebrated for a dead girl's dream. I scrambled back to my purse, which I dropped near the attic ladder. My hands shook so badly it took me 2 tries to get the note out. I held it under the dim light of the bare bulb, staring at the spidery, slanted script. Don't attend the gala. Check your old diary. The familiarity of it was a physical itch in my brain. It wasn't Eliza's handwriting. Hers had been precise and blocky, like an architect's. And it wasn't mine. So who? Who else knew about the diary? I had shown it to Eliza, of course. And Mark. Mark Jensen. Quiet, brooding Mark, who was always just there. He was in our honors physics class, part of our nerdy little group. He rarely spoke, but he would watch Eliza with this intense, heartbreaking adoration. He knew all our secrets, was privy to all our late-night brainstorming sessions, usually sitting in the corner of my garage, just listening. He knew about the diary. I remember teasing Eliza that I'd written about her crush on him, and she'd gone beet red while he just stared at the floor. My eyes darted from the note to the diary entry about the accident. My heart stopped. I had been so focused on the main text that I'd missed it. Tucked into the margin, written so small it was almost invisible, were 2 words, a detail I had apparently forced myself to forget for 15 years. Mark was there. He hadn't been a witness. He'd left before she fell. At least that's what I'd told the police. That's what I'd told myself. But the diary, my own forgotten words, said otherwise. He was there, on the cliff. That night. And the note. The note that had appeared on the biggest night of my life, the night I claimed Eliza's legacy as my own, was written in his handwriting. This wasn't just a warning. It was a summons. He was breaking a 15-year silence, and the only possible reason was that he knew my version of the story, the version that built my entire world, was a lie. My phone buzzed in my purse, a frantic, insistent vibration against the dusty floorboards. It was Liam. A text message, then another, then a call. I ignored them all. The gala, the glittering diamonds on my dress, the award with my name engraved on it, they were all artifacts from a life that had just shattered, The only thing that was real was the dusty attic, the cheap lilac diary, and the chilling realization that my carefully constructed reality was a house of cards built on a teenage grave. Mark was there. The memory, unlocked by those 3 little words, came flooding back not as a clear picture, but as a series of disjointed, nightmarish snapshots. The salty spray of the ocean, the eerie glow of the meteor shower, the sharp, angular silhouette of Mark standing a few feet away, his face cast in shadow, and the sound of Eliza's voice, not happy and excited like I'd remembered, but tight and strained. They were arguing. I couldn't remember about what. The words were lost to the wind and the crashing waves below, but the tension was a physical presence between them. Then, the scream. Not mine. Hers. I had lied to the police. I had told them Mark left an hour before. I had edited him out of the single most traumatic event of my life. Why? Was it to protect him, or was it to protect myself? The truth was a murky, bottomless pit, and I was terrified of what I might find if I looked too closely. My fingers flew across my phone screen, my thumbs clumsy with panic. I searched for his name on social media, Mark Jensen. A dozen profiles popped up, but none of them looked right. Then I remembered he'd always hated his name, said it was too common. He'd wanted to be a writer, and he had a pen name he used for the pretentious poetry he'd sometimes show Eliza. What was it? Something with a bird. Rook. Marcus Rook. I typed it in. A single sparse profile appeared. No photos of him, just abstract images of shadows and urban decay. But the location was listed. He lived right here, in the city. He hadn't vanished after high school. He'd been here the whole time, a silent observer to my meteoric rise. My stomach churned. Had he been watching me all these years? Attending my lectures, reading articles about my work, about her work? The thought of his quiet, intense eyes following me from the shadows made my skin crawl. There was no time to think, only to act. The gala would be starting soon. Liam would be furious, confused. But going there now felt like dancing on Eliza's grave. The anonymous note wasn't just a warning, it was a threat. Don't attend the gala. Mark was telling me not to take that stage, not to claim that award. He was giving me a choice to stay silent and keep my stolen life, or what? I shoved the diary into my designer purse, the juxtaposition of the childish book and the expensive leather sickening. I scrambled down the attic ladder, my silk dress catching on a splinter. I didn't care. Clara, what the hell's going on? We have to go now. Liam was standing in the foyer, his face a mask of frustration and worry. He saw the look in my eyes, the wild, hunted expression of a cornered animal. My God, what happened up there? I can't go, I said, my voice hoarse. Liam, I'm so sorry. I can't explain right now, but I cannot go to that gala. Can't go? Clara, this is everything, your whole career. What could possibly be more important than this? The truth, I thought. 15 years of lies. But I couldn't say that. The words were lodged in my throat, choked by shame and terror. Please, I begged, my voice cracking. Just trust me. Something has happened. I have to go somewhere. I'll call you. I promise. Before he could argue, before he could stop me, I grabbed my car keys from the bowl by the door and ran. I didn't look back at his shocked, hurt face. I couldn't. I bolted out into the cool night air, the silk of the gown whispering around my ankles, a ridiculous costume for the horror movie my life had become. The address from his profile led me to a rundown industrial part of the city, a neighborhood of brick warehouses and graffiti-covered walls. It was the last place I would have expected to find him. His apartment was on the top floor of a converted loft building, the kind of place artists and writers romanticized. Of course, I rode the clanking freight elevator up, my heart hammering against my ribs with a rhythm that matched the rattling of the steel cage. What was I going to say? Hi, Mark, remember me? I stole our dead friend's life's work and then lied to the police about you being there the night she died. So what's up? The elevator shuddered to a halt. The hallway was dark, lit by a single flickering fluorescent light. His door was at the very end, Unit 7B. As I walked towards it, my ridiculously expensive heels clicking on the grimy concrete floor, I felt a strange sense of inevitability, as if every step I had taken for the last 15 years had been leading me right here. I raised my trembling hand to knock, but I didn't have to. The door creaked open before my knuckles made contact. He was standing there, as if he'd been waiting for me. He looked the same, and yet completely different. The brooding intensity was still there in his dark eyes, but it was sharpened now, honed by years of something I couldn't name. He was taller, leaner, and the shadows under his eyes spoke of 1,000 sleepless nights. He wasn't surprised to see me. "I knew you'd come, Clara," he said, his voice a low rumble, deeper than I remembered. He stepped aside, gesturing for me to enter. His apartment was a cavernous, sparsely furnished space. The walls were lined not with bookshelves, but with corkboards, and every single inch of those boards was covered in a sprawling, intricate web of my life. Newspaper clippings of my awards, architectural blueprints of the Lumina Tower, photos of me at groundbreaking ceremonies, cutting ribbons, smiling with Liam, and in the very center of it all, a single faded high school photograph of a smiling, curly-haired girl with big, curious eyes. Eliza. It was a shrine, a memorial, an obsession. My gaze was drawn to a large drafting table in the center of the room. It was covered with papers, but one item stood out, placed deliberately in the middle. It was another diary, not lilac and cheap like mine, but a handsome leather-bound volume. It was open to a specific page, and as I stepped closer, my blood turned to ice. The handwriting on the page was precise, blocky, and instantly recognizable. It was Eliza's. Mark hadn't just been observing my life. He'd been holding on to a piece of hers. And the last entry, dated the day of her death, was circled in red ink. "She didn't slip, Clara," Mark said, his voice dangerously quiet from behind me. "And you didn't just forget I was there. You pushed her." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and toxic. "You pushed her." It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact, a verdict delivered after 15 years of silent deliberation. My entire body went rigid, every muscle screaming in denial. "No," I whispered, the sound swallowed by the cavernous room. "No, that's not true. It was an accident. She slipped. I tried to grab her." The rehearsed lines I had told the police, my parents, myself, tumbled out, sounding flimsy and pathetic, even to my own ears. Mark just watched me, his expression unreadable, a chilling blend of pity and contempt. He gestured toward the leather-bound diary on the table. "Her last entry, Clara. Read it. She wrote it that afternoon, just hours before you went to the cliffs." My feet felt like lead, but I forced myself to move closer. The expensive silk of my gala dress swished against the dusty concrete floor, a sound from another world. I leaned over the drafting table, my eyes scanning Eliza's neat, architectural script. April 17th. I have to talk to Clara tonight. I can't let her do this. I found my sketchbook in her bag this morning, the one with all the final Lumina designs. She's been tracing them, passing them off as her own in her portfolio for the Sheridan Scholarship. She didn't even know I'd already applied with the same project. When I confronted her, she lied, said she was just studying my style. But I saw the look in her eyes. It's more than that. It's like she wants to erase me, to become me. It's scaring me. I told Mark everything. He's worried too. He thinks she's unstable. He's going to meet us at the cliffs just to make sure I'm okay. I love her like a sister, but I can't let her steal my future. I have to tell her I know. I staggered back, my hand flying to my mouth as a wave of nausea washed over me. The Sheridan Scholarship, a full ride to the most prestigious architecture program in the country, a scholarship that I had won. It was the launching pad for my entire career. I'd told everyone my portfolio was a solo project, a vision of the future, but it was Eliza's vision, and she had known. She was going to expose me. The gaps in my memory were suddenly, brutally filled in. The argument on the cliff path wasn't about some petty high school drama. It was about the scholarship, about the theft. Her voice, not strained but furious, accusing. My voice, pleading, then defensive, then venomous. The shock and hurt on her face as she realized the depth of my betrayal. The meteor shower had started, and she'd turned away for a moment, distracted by the beauty of it, her back to the cliff edge. "It's not fair, Clara," she'd said, her voice soft with disappointment. "All I ever did was help you." "She turned her back on you." Mark's voice cut through my horrified recollection, low and insistent, narrating the scene I had so violently repressed. "And you saw your chance. Your entire future was on the line. Everything you wanted was about to be taken away by the one person who was supposed to be your best friend, so you gave her a little push." "No!" I screamed, spinning to face him, tears blurring the obsessive collage on his walls. "I wouldn't! I loved her!" "Did you?" he shot back, his voice rising for the first time, cracking with 15 years of suppressed grief and anger. "Did you love her when you traced her designs? Did you love her when you submitted them as your own? Did you love her when you lied to her face? Or did you just love what she could do for you?" He took a step closer, his eyes boring into mine. "I saw it, Clara. I was hidden in the rocks, further down the path. She'd asked me to be there, but to stay back. She didn't want you to feel cornered. I saw the whole thing, the argument, the look on your face, and the push. It wasn't hard. It was just a shove, an impulsive, selfish, pathetic little shove, but it was enough." My mind reeled, trying to find purchase, trying to find a version of events where he was wrong, where this was all a terrible mistake. But the truth was there, a dark, ugly shape that had been hiding in the recesses of my memory all this time. The feel of my hands against the fabric of her jacket, the surprised gasp as she lost her balance, the sickening, weightless moment before she disappeared into the darkness. I hadn't tried to grab her hand. I had watched her fall. "Why?" I choked out, the question a desperate plea for an explanation that could somehow make sense of this nightmare. "Why wait 15 years, Mark? Why now?" "Because tonight, you're not just Clara anymore," he said, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "Tonight, you're accepting the Architectural Visionary Award. You're standing on a world stage, being celebrated for the Lumina Tower, for her tower. I let you live your stolen life. I let you have the career, the fiancé, the success. I watched you build an empire on her bones because I was a coward. I was a 17-year-old kid who just saw something horrific, and I ran. But I will not let you accept that award. I will not let the world applaud you for her murder." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, old-school tape recorder. He pressed a button. A faint hiss filled the room, and then a young man's voice, trembling and panicked, filled the silence. It was his own voice from 15 years ago. 911, what's your emergency?" My friend, she fell off the cliff path at Point Doom. Her name is Eliza." "Okay, sir, stay calm. Did you see what happened?" A long, shaky breath. "Yes, she was with Clara. They were arguing, and Clara, oh God, she pushed her." Mark clicked the recorder off. "I called 911 that night, Clara. As soon as I ran back to my car, I told them everything. I gave them your name." Well, he looked at me, a flicker of something unreadable in his dark eyes' confusion, maybe even a twisted kind of awe. But the next day, the official report came out. Tragic accident. Sole witness, a distraught Clara Hayes, confirms the victim lost her footing. My call was never mentioned. It was like it never happened. It was buried. For 15 years, I've been trying to figure out how. How does a 911 call reporting a murder just disappear? He took another step, closing the distance between us until I could feel the heat radiating from his body. And then, a few months ago, I finally found out. I've been digging, Clara, deep, and it turns out the fiancé you're so proud of, the handsome and successful Liam, his father wasn't just some wealthy businessman. He was the chief of police back then. The name echoed in the silence of the loft, a sonic boom that decimated the last pillar of my sanity. Liam's father, chief of police. Of course. Liam and I had met in college, years after the accident, a serendipitous encounter I'd always cherished as fate. Now it felt like something else entirely, a design, a long, calculated game of which I was a clueless pawn. Liam? I breathed, shaking my head in disbelief. No, he doesn't know anything about this. His father, it's a coincidence. Mark let out a short, bitter laugh. There are no coincidences in a cover-up, Clara. Think about it. You arrive at a prestigious university, a traumatized but brilliant girl with a scholarship-winning portfolio. And who happens to be your charming, attentive resident advisor? The son of the very man who could make a murder investigation vanish into thin air. He wasn't just falling for you. He was assigned to you. My mind raced, frantically recontextualizing a decade of my life. Liam's seemingly casual questions about my past, his gentle insistence that I not dwell on the tragic accident, his constant reassurance that I deserved all my success. It hadn't been love and support. It had been maintenance. He was the groundskeeper of my gilded cage, ensuring the ghost of Eliza stayed buried. His father had buried the crime, and Liam had been tasked with burying the memory. Why? I asked, my voice hollow. Why would they do that for me? They didn't even know me. They didn't do it for you, Mark corrected, his voice laced with venom. They did it for them. A murder investigation involving two promising students from affluent families? That's a media circus, a stain on a perfect town's reputation. A tragic accident is just a sad story that fades with the seasons. Liam's father was protecting his jurisdiction, his career. And when his son brought home the brilliant architect with a dark little secret, he saw an opportunity. A perfect, controllable daughter-in-law forever indebted to their silence. You weren't just a project for Liam, you were the family's greatest asset. The truth was a physical poison, seeping into my veins, paralyzing me. My perfect life, my perfect fiancé, my perfect career. All of it was a lie, a carefully constructed stage play produced by the very people I trusted most. And I was the star, a puppet dancing on strings I never knew existed. Suddenly, the phone in my purse, still clutched in my hand, began to vibrate. I looked down. The screen glowed with Liam's face. It was the 10th time he'd called. This time, I answered, my finger moving with a cold, detached purpose. I put it on speaker. Clara, my God, where are you? The ceremony is starting. People are asking questions. His voice was a frantic whisper, laced with an authority I'd never heard before. I'm with Mark Jensen, I said, my voice flat and dead. I watched Mark's eyes widen slightly. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then Liam's voice, when it came back, was completely different. The panic was gone, replaced by a chilling calm. Clara, listen to me very carefully. Get out of there right now. Don't say another word to him. Get in your car and drive home. We can fix this. Fix this? I echoed, a hysterical laugh bubbling in my throat. Fix what, Liam? Fix the fact that I killed my best friend? Or fix the fact that your family has been covering it up for 15 years? Another pause, longer this time. My father did what was necessary to protect a traumatized young girl from ruining her life over a mistake, he said, his voice hard as steel. A life that, I might add, has been very good to you. We gave you everything. You gave me Eliza's life, I shot back. Tears of rage and grief finally breaking free. You propped me up and called it love, but it was just insurance on your investment. Don't be dramatic, he snapped. That award is waiting for you. This is the culmination of everything we've worked for. Don't throw it all away because some obsessed lunatic from your past showed up. Leave. Now. The line went dead. He hadn't denied a thing. I looked at Mark. The anger in his face had been replaced by a weary sadness. He had lived with this truth for half his life, a solitary keeper of a flame that had nearly consumed him. He had watched me live in the sun while he languished in the shadows of what I had done. What now? I asked him, the question encompassing everything. The police, Liam, the award, the rest of my hollow life. Now, he said, gesturing to the tape recorder and Eliza's diary on the table. You choose. You can walk out that door, go to your gala, and continue living their lie, or you can stay here and help me tell the truth. For the first time in 15 years, a choice was truly my own. I looked at the shrine Mark had built, the obsessive collage of my stolen success surrounding the pure, bright face of my forgotten friend. I saw the Lumina Tower blueprints, her elegant, brilliant lines that I had claimed as my own. The tower was my legacy, yes, but it was a monument to a crime. Every beam of light that danced on its glass facade was a reflection of the darkness in my soul. I walked over to the drafting table and gently picked up Eliza's diary. The leather was cool and smooth beneath my fingers. I held it to my chest, a relic of a friendship I had betrayed in the most unforgivable way. There was no going back. There was no fixing this. Liam and his father could bury a 911 call, but they couldn't bury a confession. I pulled out my phone and found the number for the city's biggest newspaper, the one with the tenacious investigative reporter whose articles I secretly admired. My thumb hovered over the call button. They won't let this go easily, Mark warned, his voice soft. Liam's father is retired, but he's still powerful. They will try to destroy you. Let them try, I said, a strange sense of peace settling over me for the first time since I'd opened that note. They can't take anything from me that wasn't already stolen. I pressed the button. As the phone began to ring, I looked out the loft's massive window. In the distance, against the glittering night sky, the Lumina Tower stood tall and proud, a beacon of light and innovation. My masterpiece. My shame. It was beautiful. And tonight, for the first time, everyone was going to know its real name. They were going to know it was Eliza's.